Hello there YouTube, my name is Robert. I'm going to take you through a bunch of hidden racetracks I found on the Need for Speed reboot. This isn't through file diving or data analysis or any of that fun stuff because I don't have any of the kit to do that. This is just me driving around, looking at the map and saying, hey, there's space for a racetrack here, so let's dive in. So for the very first course that I had a look at, we're going to do a small loop around the centre of the Burnwood area. Just the southeast, there's a little route that follows it round. It just flows very nicely to drive, apart from this section here. And you'll see, I feel like this would have been why it was dropped if it was ever planned. It doesn't fit quite well with the gift physics that the game uses mostly. It's quite technical. It would have been fine in an Underground 2 Most Wanted physics where like the grip is very high. But in this track, it's very short, it's very tight. It would have been very early in the game. But this section, a lot of beginners, when you're new to this game, this physics engine's very wild, you'd have spun out. So we'll give it a lap in my Grip NSX and I'll just show you what I found. And there you go. One short lap of what would have been a very short circuit very early in the game. But if it was ever planned, it was removed because this section just does not work. The way the game works, when you're trying to lose a lot of speed with the drift, you just spin. So it'll have been removed for that because it would have been very early. And very early, your beginners just aren't used to that sort of pressure. So next we're in Lost Salt for a counterpoint to a Legends Wheels, which is a wildly popular event I always find in the all-drive lobbies. You invite people, people usually come, goes around this end, follows the yellow, the motorway, just does a little loop at the north end of Burnwood. This thought I've had, why is there not one that follows the south? Just goes around this way and up over here. It'd been ultra high speeds. It is reasonably challenging. This section does get a little bit awkward with the partitions in the middle of the road around here, but I still think it would have made a good track. To do something with Magnus Walker in the story, but for whatever reason it was removed. So let's have a little run. So next up, we are up in the canyons for another track that reminds me of the first one that I found. It's simple, it flows only in one direction, and it is quite short. the Vide Canyon Speedway, I'm going to call it. This at Louisville, really quite dull. I think it would have been an interesting thought as like a time attack in the early game. There's a lap timed event, but it's really cut because it's just a bit of a pain. It's a bit awkward. There's a bit of walls all over the place, and it is quite boring. You're just constantly turning right. But it's here, and it is very circular, and it just does draw the eye a little bit on the map when you're having a look. So let's just do a lap and see how it goes. So very short, very simple, very quick. There's a little bit of awkwardness up here, obviously, with the cambers. It could have been a challenging wee event, but it was never used for whatever reason. I don't know if it would have been that good. I don't think it would have been much of a fan favorite, but hey, it's here, and there's nothing else there. So take what you can from that. Next, I'm going to run a figure eight around the Navy Pier. I'm not sure about this one so much. This area is very densely used for racetracks, but there's just this section here of the roads as they come together. It just looks right for a little circuit track, you know. I'm not sure whether there would be a corner there or you'd do a loop round. I'll do the loop round, just to show you the scale of the place. But we'll just have a look at this. Just this section here. Is it? Oh, which track is it? There's a track that runs around. Yes, projecting karma. It runs around and you turn left here, and it's always a little bit awkward. It's just a little bit odd. There's a hump in the road just over here, and it's a little bit tricky sometimes, and there's often traffic there as well. So I feel like a track here would have been underutilized because of that. Projecting karma was in the Eddie update, so let's just do a little lap, see what we can see, and make your own opinions, I guess. And there you have that one. Yeah, I'm not quite so certain about this one's deliberateness of a racetrack, especially with the crossover. I don't think any other courses cross over themselves quite so severely that would have been used as a circuit. But it kind of works. It's kind of fun. Who knows? Still in Southport. I'm going to have a look at the little circuit. This bit of road is used a few times before, but it's never quite used as one small racetrack. I do know there's an event, I can't remember what it is. It comes down this way and goes around the Art Centre and goes back. So we're just going to do a little lap. I think this would have made another very good early race. I'm not quite sure why this isn't used. Maybe there's just too many races around here, and they just didn't want people in the always online, always connected open lobbies where all your races happen in the same shared space. It would have got very chaotic very quickly. Someone's trying to do the drift event that goes this way, find your groove, and then the lap goes this way. That would have just been chaos. Players, I would have enjoyed that, but I think a lot of players would not have enjoyed it because I'm very niche. I love the chaos this game creates. So let's just do a little lap of this short circuit and see how it goes. I'm gonna try that again. So yeah, there's a lot to offer there. It does get a little bit awkward up here, but like I said, there's another event that goes around that little hairpin anyway. So, and this section of road here, this is lovely with a grip build. The angles just work really nicely. So yeah, not sure why that was never used as a track. But hey, who am I to judge? In the Harbour View, Apollo Heights set, Franklin Terrace is the area, I think. We're going to do a loop of the yellow freeway that just crisscrossed its way quite nicely across it. This would have made a very nice, it would have made a nice one-lap sprint race, medium towards in the game, 2 or 3 towards the end of the game. It's quite long, it's quite long-winded, but these roads have a lovely flow to it. I do know that, I think it's assumed the position, yeah, assumed the position does go around half of this part around Apollo Heights quite thoroughly, but it does cut across and stuff, and it is slightly different. But I feel like this way round, this just section, it's just a very long, high-speed section, and it just would have been good fun, so let's just take a wee lap. So I think this would have been one of the longest circuits in the game for time, just because there's so few circuits in the game. It does make me wonder, were the guys in this game developing it? There are precious few circuit races in this game. There's a few time trials that go round in a circle. Talk of the Town's a good example. There's one, I think, Red Lions in Burnwood. They go round and they double back on themselves. There's very few classic circuit races. And I feel like when this game came out, there was a lot of Forza games that were very repetitive, and people were very anti-repetitive racing games. So I do feel that there's a lot of like desperation to avoid that in this game. There's a lot of good circuits built, but then not used because you don't want repetitive circuit racing in this game. Just a thought. And now let's move on. Next, we have a course that I feel would have been a good drift track in Harborview. Small one, circuit drift contest, where you fight for the highest score over a period of time. Most of those are circuit races because you don't know how fast the car is, so just let them go round and round till the timer runs down. This one is quite tight. There's a couple of fiddly bits. This section here, perhaps a little bit too straight. And there's lots of reasons why this would have been dropped, but this little bit of road just flows very well together. And you can make a little loop out of it quite easily. So I feel like early on in the map, this could have been designed to be raced, but then was dropped for not quite being good enough. So let's have a lap. I'm in a different car. It's drifty. Let's have a go. So yeah, just a little short one, but who knows, it could have been early on, but yeah, there's a few too many long straights for it to make a good drift course. But hey, it could have been once upon a time. Next, we're up in the hills for a short circuit that I feel could have been used for anything, gripping, drifting. There's a few drift trials that run around here, and a time attack that runs like half of it, really bizarrely. And there's this off-road section here that's in the time attack that runs around this eastern blob. But it would make a good little road to drive on. It's quite narrow, it's quite challenging. It would have made a fun little circuit race. I feel like it's too short for the late game and a bit too technical for the early game will have been why it was not used, perhaps. That or they just didn't think to use it because there's a lot of drifting up in these hills more than racing. But let's just have a little look. Bad lap of that mountain top track. Yeah, like I said, there's a lot up here already on this little section. It doesn't add that much, but it's just odd that it's here and it's so circuitry. Like, there's these two hill climbs here, and they just connect with this huge circuit that's never used. So yeah, well, let's move on. Final track, and one of the most contentious, I think. I have a little route that follows a little bit of Saturday Night Drive, a little bit of the freeway, and a little bit of the mountains. We're going to go up here, we're going to turn right onto the freeway and come back. The flow onto and off of the freeway isn't great, and I feel like if this was deliberate, which I'm not so sure about for this one, that'll be why it was never used. Um, this one, I feel I may be clutching at straws. I just think it would be cool to have a little figure eight that follows those two different, very different kinds of roads. up the mountains, the narrow stuff in the dark, and on the freeway in the light and high speed. So let's have a little lap and I'll show you what I found. And there you have a lap at that. I think it could have worked. There was a bit of weirdness just on this section. The bit of the freeway there is quite narrow. You do approach at high speeds. It would be a really odd braking zone to do for this game's standards. But yeah, that was my collection of tracks that I feel like could have been in Need for Speed. I guess there's also like the almost traditional freeway loop that they didn't do over here. Um, but I feel like there's enough freeways used in the races of this game to get between different zones. You spend a lot of time on them. I don't think it would have been that fun. It wasn't that fun in the older games here, and CJ Tastic takes you along this loop here, which isn't really used for much anyway, so you get your fix there. But yeah, I hope that was fun to watch. It was quite fun to make. I might do another one when the new Need for Speed comes out later this year. Um, cool. Thank you.